Alright, so in today's adventure, we're going to try to figure out what's wrong with the hydraulics on this little Kubota. This is an L175. I got this last summer for pretty much next to nothing, and runs great. It has under 500 hours on it. The reason why it was so cheap and how I ended up with it is, from the best we can tell, it was defective when it left the factory. Kubota never bothered to fix it or was asked to fix it. Maybe someone just accepted it, it's not working right, but basically there were some things in the transmission which were not properly aligned, so it got stuck in 2 gears pretty much instantly, and that's why it's 40 years old with under 500 hours on it. But anyway, Mechanic Steve was able to fix that, and so now it's a pretty decent little tractor. One problem that it does have, however, is that, like a lot of pieces of older equipment, the hydraulic system and the transmission are separate reservoirs, and what's going on with this seems to be there's a leak somewhere in the hydraulic system, so it floods the transmission with oil, which is a problem because if we keep using it like this, it's going to overpressurize the transmission and blow some seals out, and then it's going to be a huge mess and a colossal pain to fix. So I figure we'll take this apart and see what's going on in here. Hopefully it's pretty simple. I talked to Mechanic Steve, and what him and I both seem to think is the problem with this, not that I really have any idea, is that the hydraulic cylinder, which raises and lowers the 3-point hitch, we think it's just leaking. You know, the seals on it are shot, probably from age, and I think this tractor sat for extended periods of time without ever being used. And so we got to find that and take it apart. Now, unfortunately, this tractor does not have an external hydraulic cylinder for the 3-point hitch. That's a feature I really like on equipment, you know, on the Zetter or the new Kubota. That's just the way it is. There'd be a big hydraulic ram that would start like about here and end here, and it would raise this up and down just like that. So if it ever starts leaking, it's super simple because it's on the outside of the tractor. You just pop it off and replace the seals, exactly like what I did with the Zetter a couple weeks ago. But it doesn't, so it's buried somewhere in there, just like it is on this case over here as well. And so that's what we got to do with it. Another thing I'll say, everybody talks about how new equipment is terrible, and you know, there are a lot of legitimate complaints about it. You know, there's fewer brands in the marketplace than ever, so you know, the quality is down a lot. There's not that many choices. Really, the farmer suffers for these reasons. But there is one great thing about new equipment that I've really come to appreciate working on this older stuff, and that is that on either of these old tractors, and most other ones as well, there's a separate fluid and a separate pump and a separate reservoir for everything. You know, like on this one, for instance, you got your power steering fluid, you got your transmission oil. You know, this one is actually mixed transmission hydraulic oil, which is kind of nice. But the way it works on newer equipment is you would have, at least some newer equipment, like the Kubota M7060 I really like, everything behind the clutch is one solid fluid. No different final drive fluid, no different power steering fluid. It all runs off the same hydraulic pump in the back of the tractor. It is a genius design, and if this was like that, we wouldn't be having to do this today because, yeah, it would still be leaking internally. Maybe the 3-point couldn't pick up as much weight, but we wouldn't have to worry about fluids mixing that shouldn't mix and then blowing seals out of stuff. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on with this. I guess pretty much all there is to do is take off the seat. Maybe there's a way we can like have a visible opening into the rear end on this beast and then run the hydraulics some and then see if we can see a visible leak. I'm not sure we're gonna get that lucky though. I don't think these bolts go all that far, but one way to find out. Okay, well, shoot. That's longer than I thought it was. That's why we assume nothing. Man, this is really stuck on here. I'm guessing all this rust that's coming up from these bolts is also between this casting and the one below it. Are we missing some bolts or something? I think I'm gonna try this bronze faced hammer that I made. You know, what I want to do is find a way that I can like pry this up against the weight of the rest of the tractor, but I think this whole tractor weighs like 1,200 pounds or something. And if this hasn't come off since the 70s, it's gonna take a lot more than that amount of force. Man, I hate doing stuff like this. I just want to get it loose a little bit. I'm trying to knock it loose here so we can lift the whole thing up off those studs. Of course, nothing is that easy, is it? So there's really only one other thing that could be causing these problems, and that's if any of these bolts are like, you know, a million miles long and they tie into the transmission of this tractor. I think that's incredibly unlikely, but before I break anything, trying to force this upper bit off the lower bit here, I think we should at least try and pull these so we know that's not going to be in the way. Of course, this doesn't want to come off either. Why would it? Whoa. Oh, what is that? Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting filth. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, at least something came out. Wow, that's solid rust in there. I said when I bought this machine, I suspected very highly it's been through some Texas flooding. So I knew it was gonna be bad, but this is, wow, man, this is really bad. Yeah, look at that. It's amazing this worked at all. Man, this is what, the third tractor in a row, I think, that's either had waterlogged transmission fluid or filth like this. Fourth tractor, I think, if you count that old Ford. That one's a little different because it's like 70 years old, but you know, I'd say I'm surprised when I open stuff up and I find stuff like this, but the reality is, when you live in an area that some years pushes 80 inches of rain, I mean, is it really a surprise? I don't think so. They say we on average get like 34 or something, but if you look at what we actually get, it's, yeah, I'm surprised this isn't worse, quite frankly. Oh my goodness. It's a little different. It's a different kind of rust than when I lived up north and they put salt on everything in the winter. That's bad too, but like that's on the outside of stuff. This kind of thing, nothing here is really waterproof and it gets all on the inside of machinery. But that still leaves us with the great mystery of how in the world do I actually remove this thing? And who is calling me? And of course, the stupid GoPro keeps turning itself off for no apparent reason. Man, I hate to do it, but I think we're gonna have to try and impale this with an air chisel. I mean, I've been beating on it with a sledgehammer and it won't come loose. I hate doing this because it messes up mating surfaces, but I don't see another way right now. Sorry, old tractor, I know this is gonna hurt. Ha, but it works. That's the thing about violence. Everyone tells us we should never use it, but man, it sure does get results. You know what would really be great is if I had some sort of large overhead lifting apparatus, like within 10 feet from where I'm standing right now, and I can just use that to lift it up. It's like we're caught on something, but I don't know what. I don't see that we're stuck on anything. I think what this is there's a lot of corrosion on the outside of these two studs, and that's causing resistance when I try to lift this up. This pry bar. This is actually a tire iron. I bought it to change a tire on my John Deere like last summer, and this is the first time I've used this tire iron for anything. Oh, goodness, this is how people lose teeth. What in the world? Oh, rust everywhere. Oh, oh yeah. Oh no. Oh, there's some beautiful welds in there. Well done. Little Japanese Kubota dudes. Wow. All right, some rust in this. It doesn't look bad though. Mainly surface rust and a little bit of gasket floating in there. So this is the high-low range. There's, I guess that'd be low because it's got the bigger gear. And then there's high range, or no, neutral then high. So I don't know, something like that. All those gears look pretty much mint. Back here, that's our ring and pinion. A little surface rust, but I don't see any chunks missing, at least out of the visible part. And honestly, that rust isn't even all that bad. So all that leaves, ooh, this is some Titanic level corrosion. All right, well shoot. That's pitted really bad. And then there's all this filth and sediment in the top of this. I guess all the moisture got displaced by the oil and went as high as it possibly could, and well, now this is all corroded. Disgusting. On the upside, I will say this Gliptol coating stuff, this stuff that looks like red paint, but it's, if that's what I think it is, that's about a million times tougher than paint. That looks bloody brilliant. It's a good way to keep at least some of the rust at bay. Isn't it unlucky? Yeah. All right, so I'm really not very optimistic about the hydraulic system on this tractor right now, because you guys saw how disgusting that hydraulic cylinder is. And this machine is 40 something years old, I think. I think it's like a mid-70s model, something along those lines. And the hydraulics do somehow work. Despite all the pitting and corrosion and everything on the cylinder, when I got this tractor, it would raise and lower a little 4-foot mower. But I mean, that is deep pitting. I'm gonna see if I can find parts for this somewhere. I'm not all that optimistic. I'd like to be wrong. That'd be really cool, because I think if I could get that cylinder, you know, replaced or something along those lines, then it wouldn't be all that hard to get this going, because it's a low hours machine with an otherwise functional hydraulic system. But the reason why I'm not all that optimistic is because it's as old as it is. When Kubota was selling these, they were still kind of an off-brand status here in this country. And I'm afraid if I buy one that's used, it's gonna be in similar condition to that. So I gotta think about this. I don't really know what exactly I'm gonna do, but now we know presumably where this thing was losing fluid from. That's really the only place in there it could be losing fluid from. And yeah, it sucks, but now we know. And I'm pretty impressed by this, honestly. This is officially the worst hydraulic cylinder I've ever seen. Now, some people will say, hey, you can just take that to a hydraulic shop and they'll machine out a new one, or got one from new stock and everything. Yeah, I have no doubts about that. I know that that's the thing that people do, which is great, but it's also a very expensive thing. And the main reason why I bought this tractor was to run a PTO powered generator, or perhaps a small wood chipper, things along those lines. Pretty much just cheap PTO power, because it runs on like pretty much no fuel. Little 2-cylinder, 17 horsepower, mechanically injected non-emissions engine. It'll run all day on like a cup of fuel. So yeah, I gotta think about what I want to do with this. Maybe I'll get lucky and I can find some stuff online. No, more later.